I'll take the opportunity of the Speaker's presence to respond to some of the things that he said.
Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our regular legislative session. We have a lot of work to do. My colleagues on this side of the chamber are ready and eager to get back to our urgent legislative work that we promised the American people we would do. The Democrats had all the Epstein files in their possession for 4 long years under the Biden presidency. The Biden Department of Justice had these files, and no one on this side who is breathless today about the urgency of this release ever said a word about it. And it was the Democrats who could have urged President Biden's Department of Justice to go beyond prosecuting just Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but they didn't do it. And so it's a fair question to ask today, why now?
In the very presence of the victims and the survivors who come to join us today, the Speaker said that now would be a time we should be working on urgent legislative work. Mr. Speaker, justice is urgent legislative work. The truth is urgent legislative work. The Speaker says, why now? Why now? Well, Mr. Speaker, you were the one who refused to swear in Adelita Grajova for 50 days. We would have done it 50 days ago, but she provided the 218th signature on the discharge petition. So why now? It was because of your dilatory tactics, your delay, your postponement of it. Now, the gentleman says that there are not sufficient protections. There are protections in the bill for the victims to make sure that their names will be redacted. And yet we hear even the Speaker of the House of Representatives openly inviting the U.S. Senate to start finger painting on this bill, which we have waited more than 5 months to bring to the floor. The Senate should pass the bill exactly as it's written. The President should sign it exactly as he said he would when he finally changed his mind. And the Epstein file must be released. Moreover, if the President is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now. Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker, Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today, they're no longer unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation, with child sex abuse, all of it. And he traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy. And then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail. And it was over in about a year after the rape and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of girls. And he kept going and he kept at it. We want the whole truth to come out. This is the United States of America. Even the British monarchy wouldn't put up with this. How about the American democracy? How about we say, no way, we're not going to allow this cover-up to go on for 1 day more. And I'm glad the President changed his mind after pulling out all the stops to try to get one of our Republican colleagues to change their mind, to remove their name from the discharge petition. He gave up. And I want to salute the gentlelady from Colorado from having the courage to stand her ground in the Situation Room in the White House and say, no, she wasn't going to be bullied. No. So I'm glad the President changed his mind. But let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman is reminded to direct your comments to the chair and not your colleagues.
Yes, sir.
Speaker Johnson, you say that Democrats had a Hate America rally, but what does it say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The president uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, they're in one of these photos. I think there's a picture of the president hanging in effigy by a noose on one of these. The one on the far end. I mean, it's unconscionable. Look, America is built on the idea of free speech. You have the right to protest. Of course, we jealously guard that. I mean, Chip and I are attorneys. We've defended that right in the courts. But what they're doing right now is different. They are trying to incite violence. It's not funny. You don't mock a president who has already had 2 failed assassination attempts on his life. This is not a game. And the idea that communists would be supporting this is unconscionable to us. Look, when we give tours of the House chamber and we bring in constituents and we point out all the historical facts and images around the building, I always start with "In God We Trust," which of course is right above the rostrum of the Speaker's podium. And if you look in the visitor's guide to the House chamber, it says on page 14. When was that put there? Well, it's put there in the early 60s, 1961, as I recall. And it says in the guide that it was put there, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Cold War era Soviets. Why? Because their philosophy, that's what it says, a rebuke to their philosophy. Their philosophy was Marxism. Marxism begins with the premise that there is no God. It is antithetical to who we are as Americans. The Declaration of Independence says we're created by God and He's the one that gave us our rights. It is in God whom we trust. That is the national motto. That's what America's built on. What those people are advocating for is at its essence un-American. And when they go the next step and they call for violence on political officials in an environment that is already a heightened threat environment, it's dangerous stuff. They had the right to do it. Congratulations, they didn't burn any buildings down. That's a big achievement for the left, to have some kind of gathering where they don't have a loot-in and riots and burn a building down. There was, I think, some in Portland, they threw bottles and bricks and stuff at the ICE facility because that's what they do for fun now out there. But they had a free speech event. Congratulations. But you need to look past that and look at what it is they're advocating for openly, and it's really scary stuff. Yes, ma'am. Second row. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. So my question or comments are related to what you said yesterday about not being open to pass any legislation to ensure that military gets paid. I'm sure you can tell by my voice I'm very shaky. Just want you to hear a little bit about my family. I have 2 medically fragile children. I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. As a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
Open the door, Mr. Speaker. Open the doors of Congress, Mr. Speaker. Why did you cancel votes when we are just hours away from a federal government shutdown? All because you want to bend the knee to Donald Trump and refuse to protect health care, to cancel the cuts, to lower costs for the American people? Let us in so that we can do our jobs. Cancel your vacation and those Republicans who refuse to be here. You want to debate? Let's debate in front of the American people, but don't sacrifice people's health care. in the mix.
All right, I'm here in D.C. We just finished a press conference with all the House Democrats. We are here in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol right now, ready to work to keep the government open. But guess where the Republicans are? The Republicans in Congress are not in Congress. They're on vacation right now. We're literally the only ones here. And it just goes to show that they have, number one, put us in a healthcare crisis. They want to go into a shutdown so that way they can take away healthcare from more people. We're here to say we want to keep the government open. We're not going to vote for a bill that's going to rip away healthcare from people. Get over here and let's work to make sure that this doesn't happen. But they're nowhere to be found. They're on vacation. And you can visually see the fact that all the Democrats are here, but none of the Republicans are here. So call your representative and tell them to get to work.
Hey everyone, I'm here at the U.S. Capitol. Been here since yesterday, ready to work. Unfortunately, many of my Republican colleagues didn't show up. Well, 2 did today. They showed up to the House floor. What did they do? They motioned to adjourn and walked off the floor, quitting work, knowing the clock is ticking. Because if we don't have a resolution done by midnight, government will shut down. All we're asking is to protect health care. So many millions of Americans, the most vulnerable among us, rely on government to protect them, rely on government to make sure that the healthcare cost does not continue to rise. We know it's a crisis. We know more needs to be done. But for you not to show up to work when you control the House, you control the Senate, you control the White House, you are politicking with people's lives. And so I'm telling everyone out there, make sure you are engaged, make sure you're pushing back, because right now when the federal government shuts down, it is us, the people in the communities that we represent, that will be impacted the most.
Hey everybody, I'm on the House steps of the U.S. Capitol because Democrats are here ready to get to work and make sure that we get a deal that cancels the cuts, lowers costs for the American people, and saves health care. And it is the most galling thing that Mike Johnson sent Republicans home. They are not here. They are not negotiating a deal, and they control government. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they are refusing to do what they need to do to govern and to save health care. We just heard these incredibly powerful testimonies from a woman with 2 kids on the autism spectrum, from a man who has cancer, stage 4 cancer, and what the healthcare cuts that have already been passed, plus the ones that are coming, are going to do to destroy people. A nurse who's dedicated her life to saving people, who sees people dying because they can't get healthcare. It is wrong, and that's why Democrats are in this, to fight for the American people, to fight for healthcare, and to make sure that if Republicans need our votes, then we are able to save healthcare for the American people.
Hey everyone, Congresswoman Delia Catalina Ramirez. I just left the House floor. Democrats, we all showed up to do our job during Proforma, which is at a time where the Speaker could actually open up and accept a continuing resolution. The Speaker single-handedly decided not to recognize Rosa DeLauro, our Appropriations Ranking Member, who had a CR continuing resolution to keep the government open and restore health care, and he would not even recognize her. The fact that so many of us asked him to recognize her and he absolutely ignored her makes it very clear. Republicans want the government to shut down. They wear the jacket. They have the opportunity. We're here. We're in the Capitol doing our jobs. They should be flying here immediately and making sure the government stays open instead they're on vacation, having fun, whatever the heck they're doing right now. So I want you to know that Democrats are going to stay here and we're going to do everything we can to keep the government open. Republicans, do your job. Don't shut us down.
It is day 2 here in DC. Look at me. I'm surrounded by all of these beautiful structures, these beautiful people, all here to work. And am I sworn in yet? No. Do I know when I'm going to get sworn in? No. Speaker Johnson has left the building, and unfortunately what that means for us is Southern Arizona does not have a voice here to advocate for you. You also don't have services in district. I need to get sworn in order for that to happen. Every day that I am here without being sworn in, Southern Arizona loses. Reach out to Speaker Johnson. Let him know that I need to get sworn in.
Samantha, I'm so sorry to hear about your situation. The reason I've been so angry this week, and they've been calling me out on media, Johnson's angry. I am angry because of situations just like yours. I have a big military district, and my district is the home of the Global Strike Command at Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk, the Joint Readiness Training Center. I have one of the biggest military districts and military families in America. I have a lot of airmen and soldiers who are deployed right now, and they have young families at home, and they have children in health situations like yours. This is what keeps me up at night. I want you to hear something very clearly. The Republicans are the ones delivering for you. We had a vote to pay the troops. It was the continuing resolution 3 weeks ago. Every single Republican but 2 voted to keep the government open so that your paycheck can flow. Every Democrat in the House, except for 1, voted to close it. The Democrats are the ones that are preventing you from getting a check.
Becca, amazingly enough, in the midst of this crisis, what has Speaker Johnson told the House of Representatives? He told them, you got to come back to Washington immediately. No. What has he said?
He has said to go home. Our work is done. And if you look at the number of weeks that my Republican colleagues have worked since July, it's pathetic. They are not doing their job. It's a dereliction of duty. And it's shocking that on the eve of all of these Americans across the country who are about to not be able to afford their health care, that he's not even in Washington doing the work. It's shocking.
But he has, it is. It's literally, I want everybody to hear it.
Yeah.
What Becca just said is right. Here we are in a crisis. All right, we can argue. One might expect that the leader of the Republican House of Representatives would have his people here in Washington to engage in discussion. He said, go home, go home.
That's right.
And that is just beyond belief. I hear a lot from people in Vermont, as I'm sure Peter and Becca do, about this really scary stuff in the sense that we now have a president who does not believe in the Constitution, does not believe in the rule of law, thinks that he has the right to send masked agents all over this country, picking people up off of the street, throwing them into vans, taking them God knows where, that he thinks he has. We heard yesterday, Peter and I were in caucus, and we heard from Jeff Merkley in Oregon. Jeff represents Oregon. And what's happening in Portland is just really quite insane. Chicago. I just looked a few minutes ago, the president of the United States thinks that maybe we should arrest the governor of Illinois, arrest the mayor of Chicago. Really? Last week, he announced that they were holding back tens of billions of dollars in funding for states around the country, including Vermont. And you know what our crime was? People of Vermont, New York, New Jersey did not vote for Donald Trump. Oh my God. They didn't vote for Trump. Imagine, why would they get federal funding?
Yeah.
You are seeing absolutely illegal, what we call rescissions here, impoundment of money, money that was voted by the Congress, signed by the President of the United States. Trump is saying, you're not going to get it. I will send it to where I want to send it. You voted against me, you ain't getting it. All right, who wants to pick up? Becky, you want to say a word on that?
Well, we know how this ends because you can look at autocrats around the world, authoritarian governments around the world. This is how they operate. They see how much they can get away with. And when you see the images coming out of Portland and Chicago of our own National Guard being used against us, the other piece of the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that was passed that a lot of people don't realize, they supersized the budget for ICE to increase the reign of terror. And this is, I believe, to beat us into submission and silence. And it is outrageous for a president to say, I'm going to arrest my political enemies. I mean, it is insane, and we cannot normalize it.
If you didn't know, we ended up winning a special election in Arizona. Our newest member, who has not been sworn in, Congresswoman-elect Grijalva, is ready to sign and be the 218th signature on the discharge petition. Now, for those of you that don't know what a discharge petition is, let me tell you, it's usually just a messaging tool. We usually do not get the number of signatures that we need to override the speaker. The speaker is the only one that can really, for the most part, put bills on the floor. There are exceptions. And this is one of those exceptions. And basically think of it like if your state has a petition process, if the people that are elected into office don't want to file bills or pass bills that you want, but let's say you want same-day voter registration or online voter registration, and your state allows you to do something. Or we saw the ballot initiatives around reproductive access. We saw that happen in Ohio. We saw it happen in Missouri and so many of these other red states where their elected leaders would not put anything on the floor. So the people had to rise up. So we in the House, we basically have that same opportunity. If there's something that the body of members actually wants to put forward, then it takes 218 signatures. Right now we have 217. The 218th signature will be Representative-elect Grijalva's signature. But since we're not in session and since we shut down, they've made all the excuses in the world not to swear her in, and they could have swore her in just yesterday, doing what we call a pro forma session. So they opted not to. So I also think that they are buying time right now. And what they are trying to do is twist the arms of the 4 Republicans that did sign on to the discharge petition, trying to get somebody to come off the discharge petition before Grijalva is sworn in, because then they will have to put it on the floor and they will absolutely have to take a vote. But I am so happy you asked this question, because we will not be distracted. We need to be able to walk and chew gum. And the reality is that we just heard my junior senator from the state of Texas talk about protecting pedophiles. It was some kind of slip of the mouth, but that's what he said. We got to protect the pedophiles. We know that the last time Trump was in office, he ended up having a sweep. And that's one of the reasons that he is trying to redraw the lines, because he is old enough to remember history. He knew that in the midterms, and he wasn't even as bad. He was bad, but he wasn't this bad. The last time, he ended up losing over 40 seats. So that's why he's trying to rig the system so that hopefully he can still maintain control. Because if you let the Democrats get control, you ain't got to worry about the Epstein files. We gonna go get them, right? And even if Pam Bondi and them don't want to turn them over, don't worry about it. We get courts for that, and we will absolutely head to court with these valid subpoenas, and we will get court orders, and we will have people held in contempt, and we will do all the things. So give us some power so that we can start doing some digging and figuring out what all did Elon do with y'all's information? Where all did it go? And who all did he fire? And why did he fire them? And how many people have been fired just out of simple retaliation? And let's take a look at these vindictive prosecutions that they are engaging in. The one thing that Trump is afraid of more than anything right now is real accountability, and the Democrats can usher that in. I sit on both the committees of main jurisdiction. We'll be ushering that in, oversight and judiciary. So it's important that we show up and we just keep voting every single election.